Welcome back to the second part of Mendel's laws. Now it's about to get serious. We'll take a look at Mendel's first law, known as the law of segregation. This law is about the first generation of offspring from the crossing of purebred individuals. You'll find out what it's all about in this video. So everyone, put your feet up and let the knowledge flow through you. The law we want to look at says if you cross two individuals with one different feature, but they are homozygous, the progeny is uniform. Now let's take this sentence apart. The first law that Gregor Mendel established is called the law of uniformity. No, this doesn't have anything to do with uniforms. So how did they come up with this great name? Mendel crossed peas with green seeds and peas with yellow seeds. As a result, he only found peas with yellow seeds in the next generation. This law is called the law of uniformity because all the peas of the progeny have the same seed color, thus making them uniform. Before we go on, here is some important information. When crossing two individuals, the starting generation is called the parental generation P, or simply parent generation. The offspring of this generation are called the first filial generation F, or simply daughter generation. The next generations are simply numbered all the way through until you don't have the energy to write anymore. For example, your grandparents will be the parental generation, your parents will be the generation F1, and you will be the generation F2. Okay, back to the peas. With the law of uniformity, we need to consider something very important. Both of the individuals that will be crossed need to differ in one feature. For example, they could have different colors. Moreover, in each case, they're homozygous. Thus, they have two identical alleles. Remember the homozygous part, otherwise, the jest doesn't work. The uniformity of the first filial generation applies for both the genotype, hereditary constitution, and the phenotype, appearance. The offspring will all look the same and will all have the same alleles. In our case, if we cross a plant with yellow seeds with a plant with green seeds, all the seeds of the next progeny will have the same color, yellow. Another example are the pea blossoms. If you cross a pea plant with red blossoms with a pea plant with white blossoms, the F1 generation will only have red blossoms. But why are all the seeds of the offspring yellow instead of green, and why are all the blossoms red instead of white? If you watch the introduction video of Mendel's laws, you already have an idea. It's about a dominant recessive inheritance. The stronger trait asserts itself. In the case of the seeds, the dominant trait is yellow, while for the blossom, it's the color red. It's easier to understand if you take a look at the genotype. Mendel used to breed the plants for so long that he is relatively sure that he only had homozygous individuals in front of him. Then, he crossed a homozygous dominant species, yellow, with a homozygous recessive species, green. This process can be displayed in a Punnett square, and voila! This is very easy to do. You only have to put the genotype of the parents at the top. Now, the parents always pass on an allele to the offspring. This can be expressed with a line or arrow from the parent to the progeny. To get a better overview, you can also create a chart with the genotype in parallel. Then you have to enter both the alleles of the parents in each box. First, write the allele of the parent at the top, followed by the allele of the parent at the side. So for the yellow seeds, this means the genotype of the P generation is capital G, while the genotype of the green ones is small g. Capital G stands for a dominant allele and small g for a recessive one. After the combinations of both alleles, the genotypes of the offspring are put into the empty boxes. In crossing two species, all the possible combinations have to be listed. Let's do that now. Theoretically, it results in 4 different possibilities, but for this case, they are all the same. In the end, a good overview arises over the distribution of the alleles. It's the same jest with the blossoms. While the plant with the red blossoms has the genotype capital R, the white blossom has the genotype small w. In both examples, you can see only heterozygous individuals occur in filial generation 1. So in every genotype, there is a dominant allele and a recessive allele present. Different inheritances don't follow this pattern, so no dominant recessive inheritance is present. You'll find a different inheritance with the mirabilis. The inheritance is called intermediate, and no color of the blossom asserts itself. Here, a very simple blend happens between the blossom colors in the parental generation. This is how it looks. The alleles W and R are quasi-equal, therefore no dominant or recessive alleles. That's why we just take small ones here to distinguish the inheritance from the following one. And as expected, all the plants from the F1 generation are uniform. Lastly, there's also this so-called codominant inheritance. Codominant means that, just like with the intermediate inheritance, both alleles are equal. However, now the phenotypes occur simultaneously, so there's no mixed form. Examples of codominant inheritance are the human blood groups. Crossing the blood groups A and B result in blood group AB. So both blood groups are present in parallel. No mixed form evolved. Still, the law of uniformity applies here just the same. Let's shortly summarize Mendel's first law once again. If you cross two individuals that differ in one trait, but each one is homozygous, then the offspring are all uniform. They all have the same genotype and also the same phenotype. The genotype always has both alleles included. The phenotype of the progeny is dependent on the kind of inheritance. If it's a dominant recessive, an intermediate or codominant inheritance. So ladies and gentlemen, don't miss out on the awesome video for the law of segregation. Knock yourself out. Bye!